Welcome to the Historical Facts channel. Don't forget to evaluate the video by clicking the like button below. In Moscow, in 1958, babies slept outdoors to strengthen their immune systems. This practice was common and considered important for the health of infants. Meanwhile, U.S. Army nurses enjoyed the sunshine while resting next to a cannon on a Coast Guard ship, chatting and laughing, grateful for having survived the war and being on their way home. On April 3, 1945, an American soldier was photographed wearing the crown of the Holy Roman Empire in a cave in Siegen, Germany. George Carlin was arrested on May 27, 1972, for violating Wisconsin's obscenity laws after his controversial performance known as the 7 words you can never say on television. This historical image depicts the moment German troops occupied the Acropolis in Athens, Greece, during World War II. In 1941, the Nazi flag was raised at the Acropolis as a symbol of German conquest and domination. Another historical photo captures a special moment with some of the greatest minds in physics. In the 20th century, from left to right, we see Albert Einstein, Hideki Okawa, John Wheeler, and Omar Farber taking a walk together in 1954. Mary, a 4-year-old girl, is shown peeling to pots of oysters a day in Dunbar, Louisiana. In 1911, this disturbing photo highlights child exploitation and the harsh working conditions faced by some children in the early 20th century. This image captures a Christmas celebration in an underground shelter during World War II. On December 25, 1940, while London was being bombed by a German aircraft, people were forced to seek refuge in the city's underground caves for safety. In 1948, West Berlin was surrounded by Soviet troops, and people relied on external aid to survive. At that moment, American planes arrived to deliver food and supplies to the local population, and people were photographed coming out of their homes to greet the planes. This image is an emotional representation of the pain and suffering caused by war. A child embracing and seeking comfort from a teddy bear reflects the quest for safety amid destruction and uncertainty. This shocking image from World War II depicts the devastating effects of the atomic bomb, minutes after the bomb was dropped. On Nagasaki on August 9, 1945, the smoldering ruins of the city are visible in the distance. This image showcases human technological innovation and creativity in ancient times. In 1957, before the advent of smartphones and digital cameras, people already found creative ways to take pictures of themselves. At the end of World War II, in 1945, Allied forces liberated a group of Jews captured by the Nazis on a train heading to a concentration camp where they would face immense cruelty. Around 1941, during the Singapore campaign, Japanese forces used various poses as target practice, an abhorrent act. This image depicts the barricade on Bass-Freud and Caroni streets during the Paris Commune. In 1871, the Paris Commune was a period of socialist revolution and communist government in the city. A colorful image shows an anti-fascist warrior during the Spanish Civil War of 1936, a conflict between Republican and Francoist forces in Spain. The warrior represents the fighting spirit and resistance of those defending the Republic against fascism. In East Germany in 1975, a fighter jet crashed into a building, resulting in a tragedy that killed the pilot and injured many others. This image depicts Soviet peasants listening to the radio for the first time, which was a novelty for them at the time. The introduction of radio technology in the Soviet Union opened new forms of communication and access to information for the rural population. This photo is a record of a child in military uniform from the year 1916. This image depicts a poignant human scene of a Serbian soldier sleeping next to his father near Belgrade during World War I. This is a famous image that captures the joy and relief following the end of World War II, a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945. This image shows the Prince of Naples, who later became King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy, holding a photograph of his grandfather, Victor Emmanuel II, in 1873. Lepa Radica was a heroine of the resistance against the Nazi regime during World War II. She was captured and executed at just 17 years old. But her fight and spirit were never broken by the enemies. This image captures a French airplane flying over the fields of Paris. It is a photo from an aerial photography album, dated May 4, 1916. Albert Einstein was known for his theory of relativity and his revolutionary work in physics. In addition to his scientific achievements, Einstein was also recognized for his active stance against racial discrimination. During World War I, airplanes were primarily used for aerial reconnaissance, but they were also deployed for air attacks, message transport, and bombings. The wedding rings removed from Holocaust victims are a somber symbol of the brutal persecution and extermination of Jews and other minority groups by the Nazi regime during World War II. In 1944, many dogs were trained to assist in military operations, rescue missions, protection, and explosive detection during World War II. In 1938, children posed in front of the enormous Torreya's Lodge, which was very important to the local timber industry. Unfortunately, the Torreya's Lodge was burned down in 1964 and no longer exists. During the trial of Al Capone in 1931, many of his accomplices tried to hide their faces from the public and the press. This was one of the most notorious trials of the Prohibition era and reflected the violent and clandestine nature of organized crime at the time. This young newspaper vendor is situated in front of a theater in downtown Seattle, which was forced to close due to Mayor Earl Hansen's proclamation regarding public gatherings. During the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, this image depicts the chaos and destruction during the Vietnam War in 1968. Oswald Mosley is struck in the head by a stone after making a Roman salute, a sign of support for Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy. This incident represents the opposition and discontent of the public with Mosley's fascist ideas and his union. Beth was one of the few tattooed women of her time, and her tattoo was considered unusual and controversial. Tattoos were more common among sailors and criminals, and tattooed women were rare. Trenches were used by armies in conflict to protect themselves from enemy fire and control the terrain. Trenches were typically dug into the ground, with barbed wire in front to impede enemy advances. These masks from World War I were made of materials resistant to toxic gases, such as rubber and cloth, covering the soldiers' nose and mouth while filtering the air they breathed. The Kargil War was a tragic event that had lasting impacts on the region and on India-Pakistan relations, with both sides suffering significant losses in 1999. Ghulam Muhammad, better known as the Great Gama, won the World Wrestling Championship and established himself as one of the most respected and dominant athletes of his time. His skill and legacy continue to be celebrated in Indian popular culture to this day. The image depicts the reality of the political and social tension in Germany following World War II. In 1950, Germany was undergoing a period of reconstruction and restructuring following the end of the conflict, and the presence of a new and controversial firearm reflects the stability and uncertainty of the time.